Thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Whether you're listening during your commute, while working out, or just relaxing at home, we appreciate you. Every download, every listen, and every subscription means a lot. Thank you for being part of the 12 Kyle podcast community. Stay tuned for another episode. This is the 12 Kyle podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. Man, check this out. On this episode, what I want to talk about is there's only one drink left. I came to this episode to talk about drinking or the lack thereof. If you notice the cover art, that's a picture of a drink, of a glass of wine, some Merlot that I had in March. That drink is one of 4 drinks that I've had all year long. I think my time drinking is coming to an end. And it's not a shock. It's just not, I don't know what it is. I mean, like, I guess we should go back. And for those of you listening who've been following me, some of you know the story, some of you don't. So let me just kind of fill you in. I wasn't I'm not even now much of a drinker, clearly. When I was coming up in middle school, high school, and college, I never drank. Not once. Ever. It wasn't until I think I had my first drink. I know when I had my first drink. I had my first drink the weekend my man Mo got married. And that was August of 96? No. No, it wasn't 96. When did they get married? It was August of 97. Yes. August of 97. And that was like the first time I had a drink. And I remember my first drink, it was a Tom Collins. And I can't even tell you what's in Tom Collins. Is it like lemonade or something? I don't even know. I remember it was fruity and it was sweet and it was cool. I got a little buzz, I guess, but I'm not much of a drinker and really haven't been for the majority of my life. And that's cool. It's just it was never something. Up until that point, there was no desire. I had absolutely no desire to drink. When I was in college, almost all of my teammates drank, and that was cool because, that was their thing. And there was never any type of desire for me. I was never a fan of beer. Like, beer to me tastes like goat urine. Not that I know what goat urine tastes like, but you get my point. But it was no desire. So it wasn't, and my parents, they'd have beer, they drink beer and stuff around the house, but it was, I never saw my parents like pissy drunk or anything like that. And, as the years moved on, my drinking was minimal at best. In fact, the only time that I had ever gotten drunk was at my man Rudy's bachelor party. Shout out to Rudy. That was a time. In fact, that was a time so much that I actually did a podcast episode on it. So if you want to hear it, you have to go way back in my discography. I think it's the 4th episode that I did. It's called The Last Time That I Got Drunk, which was the first and last time. Hilarious episode. Me and drinking did not mix that night, but I'll spare you the details, but go back and listen to that episode. It's called The Last Time That I Got Drunk. But no, I'm not much of a drinker. Even now, like I said, I've only had 4 drinks all year. And I think I'm coming to an end of the drinking because there's a couple of contributing factors that I'll get into in a second that have really kind of slowed me down. Um, but my background, again, my parents were together until I was like 13, almost 14 years old, when they got divorced. But they, my mom would have like a Miller Lite, the little mini Miller Lights. She would drink those. My dad would have one every now and then, but I think that might have been the last time I think the last time I saw him drink was like 85. Like it's been that long. So I didn't drink, at least I didn't see a lot of it coming up, I should say. Um, Now what was interesting is that my grandfathers both were alcoholics. My mother's dad and my dad's dad were alcoholics. My mom's dad, my maternal grandfather, Eddie, he passed away when I was 1. So he passed away in 73. He saw me. I obviously don't remember seeing him. But I've seen pictures. He looked like a real cool cat, but the drinking got to him. I think it probably took him out early. My paternal grandfather, Wes, Grandpa Wes, I never met him before. I've seen a couple of pictures. But he passed away when I was in college. And he and my dad didn't have a great relationship at all. They mended it over the years. But I'll never forget my dad, it was kind of weird, man, when my grandfather passed. His dad passed. And I was a sophomore in college at South Carolina State University. And my dad was like, yeah, man, I got some bad news. I was like, what's up? He was like, your grandfather passed. And I was like, oh, wow. And then he paused and he was like, so did you see that Yankee game last night? I was like, wait a minute. Like, we now go talk about your old man dying? But I mean, he kind of handled it like, somebody saying, yo, remember Ray Ray from Round the Way? He got shot. And you just, you kind of pause for a second because you remember little Ray Ray and you're sad that he got shot. But after that, you keep it moving. So he kept it moving. So, I mean, it didn't really affect him. So honestly, it didn't really affect me because I didn't know him. I mean, obviously I felt for him. I mourned for, my dad and his siblings, but, I didn't know him. I'd only talked to him on the phone a couple of times. And he, because of his drinking, like he had a problem with his throat and his larynx or something like that. So he talked with that little machine thing. So he sounded like a movie character. Freaked the hell out of me. So I was scared to talk to him. But yeah, so I come from grandparents or grandfathers who had alcoholism, in their system and in their body and in their history. And ultimately, at least I know on my dad's side, my grandfather's drinking led to his divorce from my grandmother, which was interesting because you're talking about what, in the 60s, late 50s, early 60s. People didn't get divorced back then. I mean, like you could literally get somebody else pregnant and have a family on the other side of town and people stayed together. You know what I mean? But my grandmother had enough. My maternal grandmother, she didn't divorce my grandfather, but she left South Carolina because like she was just tired of being broke. I mean, like legend has it that my grandfather he worked on the railroad, and so he would get paid on Friday, every Friday without fail. So he'd get paid on Friday. And in my hometown of Florence, like you had to go through this little area where he lived called the Block. And the Block was the black part of my hometown of Florence, South Carolina. It had businesses, pool halls, bars, barbershops, a lot of stuff was going on in the block. And so, if you had a pocket full of money on a Friday, it might be the spot. So long story short, my grandfather would walk through the block on his way home. Let's say he got off at noon. By the time he got home and he had already had a few drinks, his check was gone. I mean, like he had literally spent all of his money in the bar, gambling, doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. My grandmother was like, look, we're not doing this. And so she left. She moved to New Jersey to get a better life for herself. Her kids, my mom and my aunts and uncles were pretty much grown by then, but my uncle was in college. I'll put it like that. Now this was the 70s. So, but they weren't living together at the time that he passed, but they weren't divorced. Long story short, alcohol got in the way. And so that's the lineage from which I come from. It's not why I stayed away from drinking. There was just never a desire to drink like that. And so, as I mentioned a little earlier, the drinking has slowed down. I do remember this was late last year. Shout out to the homie Uncle Dolomite from the Too Much Game podcast. I was on his IG live and I don't even remember what time it was. We were chopping it up. I was drinking Merlot and I had like maybe 3 glasses. And when I tell you that wine, it came out of nowhere. Like it was like a fullback coming at you full speed and it just hit me. And it's like, so I don't even remember what I was saying on Dolomite's live. All I remember was when I got off his live, it was almost 3:00 in the morning. So he's 3 hours behind. He's in LA. So it's midnight for him. And we were having a good time laughing, talking about stuff. I remember having a good time on his live. What happened after that? I don't know. I wasn't drunk, but I was buzzed out. Like I used the bathroom, had to urinate, and then I came back in here and my intentions were to get my phone and walk upstairs and get into bed. Well, I grabbed my phone and I just remember going to tie my shoe and then I laid on the floor and the floor felt very comfortable. Now, keep in mind, I'm not drunk, but the floor felt so comfortable. Like I literally fell asleep on the floor in here. And I woke up probably about 5 a.m. Then I walked upstairs and got into bed. But that next day, the wine like just had me so tired. Like I didn't want to it was a Saturday night, Sunday morning. I didn't go to church. As I was just out, and again, I wasn't hungover. I was just tired. I felt like I'd run a mile. And I was just like, wait a minute, this ain't supposed to be like this. And so like I was like, okay, that was okay, and I had fun with the conversation. That had nothing to do with how I felt, but the wine just really just made me feel just tired. And I don't like feeling tired, especially on the weekend. Let me feel tired on Monday or Tuesday. But no, after that, I know I had a drink. I had champagne. Now I do love champagne. I will. I know that sounds crazy. It sounds kind of bougie, but I love champagne. I had champagne for New Year's. And then after that, we had dinner one night, which is what you see the wine glass in the cover art. And then we had our annual Bulldog Roundup. Shout out to the squad, South Carolina State University, my football teammates. We had our annual Bulldog Roundup in Charlotte, North Carolina. We had a cookout one day, and I had a drink at the cookout, but that was it. Especially if I know I got to drive somewhere, 1 drink, 2 drinks maximum. You won't catch me catching a DUI. I can promise you that. My drinks will, if I know that I'm driving, my drinking is minimum. Because I don't want to be a statistic. And, you can catch Uber anywhere. So if I'm going to drink like that, I'm going to ride. I'm not going to drive. But if I'm driving, I'm not drinking. But other than that, that's been it. And so like, there's a couple of things that really have really kind of killed the desire to drink. And one has been like working out. Especially as you get older, I think it's important that you work out. So I work out, a couple of times a week, and the workouts have, particularly this summer, have gotten more intense. And I just, for whatever reason, alcohol, liquor, wine, it kills my workouts. So I don't like feeling like I'm working out and I'm dragging. Like I remember one day, and this was probably after that night we went out and we had drinks, where I had that wine. I remember the next day going to the gym, getting on the bike, and my workout that day was trash. I was like, man, I'm terrible today. And I just didn't like feeling like that. And then so it just has been no desire. And what's interesting is like in my pantry / place where I keep my wine, there's a bunch of wine here. There's a bunch of wine. There's a bunch of liquor here. There's some beer for people who drink beer. If I have people over, I don't drink beer, so I'm never touching it. But yeah, there's plenty of stuff here for people to drink if somebody came by. But I'm not drinking it. I'm just not. There's absolutely no desire to touch it. A lot of times, and full disclosure, like I've never been one to be like, hey, I just got home from work. Let me go in here and grab a beer. I've never been that guy, right? So that in and of itself lends me to not, drink during the week. So all of my drinking, even over the years, has been on the weekends. Well, guess what? When the weekends come now, not only am I working out on the weekends, but I'm also running around with the kids. And I will never get behind the wheel of a car with me and my kids in it, having taken one drink. If I know that I got to go pick up my kids from someplace, or or Sharice and I have to go somewhere, we're all riding as a family or something, never doing it. Never doing it. There was a kid that I coached Little League football, and his dad was known to drink a lot. And I distinctly remember we heard about an accident. The accident didn't happen too far from our house. And the kid's name was Nehemiah. Nehemiah was in a truck with his dad. His dad was going around a curve, overcompensated, flipped the truck. Nehemiah was 10 at the time. He survived. His brother survived, but his sister died. And there was a video because it was played on the news of Nehemiah and his dad and his brother walking into a security camera showed them walking into a restaurant, and they were trying to get some help. And, they were asking the father, like, what happened? And he was kind of incoherent. He was twisted, right? And from what I could tell, Nehemiah didn't have a scratch on him. And I think about that kid sometimes because he lost his sister at the hands of his father. And his father ended up, getting a DUI. I think he ended up getting like an involuntary manslaughter charge. Wife divorced him. And this was, like I said, it's probably because Nehemiah played on the same team as Cameron. So it's probably been 10 plus years. He played on the same team, my son Cameron. But that right there scared the hell out of me. And again, I've never had a drink and then drove a car with my kids in it. But like, I would never want to be put in that position or anything like that. So no, when I'm running around with the kids or anything like that, I'm never drinking. So that's what the weekends have been, so, and I'm, back and forth between Atlanta and Houston for work. And when I'm in Houston, it's 1,000 degrees in Houston, right? So you're going to be outside at some point. You don't want to be outside in the heat with liquor in your system. At least I don't. Because it's not a good mix. the Houston Heat will beat you down, the liquor doesn't stand a chance. And so, it makes you feel even worse. So, long story short, there might be just one drink left for me this year. I've got, my high school homecoming coming up this fall. I have my college I have my college homecoming coming up this fall. But outside of that, there might not be a lot of drinks pouring. And I really don't know that I'm going to drink at either event. Because again, there's no desire, and I'm cool with that. And if this is it for me and drinking, it's cool. I had a nice run. It was never something that I had to have. I don't begrudge people who drink. As long as you do it responsibly, it's cool. But I just, for whatever reason, have just lost the desire to do it. And it's weird because I will literally go in there and look at 5 bottles of red wine, and I'll just look at them, and they look at me, and I look at them, and they look at me, and we just look at each other. And there'll be times where Sharice will say, "Hey, do you want to go get some drinks?" And I'm like, "Okay, we'll go get drinks." And we'll go get drinks, and I don't drink. I end up getting water or, pineapple juice and I don't even really drink sodas like that, to be honest. So, I got to be in the mood to get a Sprite now. That stuff is just it tastes foreign to me now. So I'm very cognizant about what I drink. Mostly now is water, Gatorade. I don't even really do the fruity drinks like that anymore. Apple juice, pineapple juice, that's about it. And I'm okay. And orange juice. I don't know if I mentioned orange juice. I love orange juice. But other than that, no, it's just not, I guess it ain't in me no more. And that's fine. Like I said, the workouts really have taken that away from me. Because when I work out, the only thing I want to drink is water and Gatorade. That's it. And I don't even really know that you should drink that much Gatorade, but it's mostly water. And I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that because I like the way my body feels, and I want my body to continue to feel good. And that's not to say that I won't ever take another drink, but I don't drink frequently enough for it to be an issue. I tell people all the time, I'm the most socialist of social drinkers. So yeah, there might just be one drink left. And if so, I'm cool with that. That's going to do it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. The podcast drops every Thursday and every Sunday at midnight. If you're on YouTube, go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, share. And once you like it, make sure that you turn the notifications on because the YouTube those episodes actually drop before the podcast actually drops. And the great thing about our YouTube channel is that we not only have video, but we have audio as well. So you can get both. If you're on social media, make sure you hit me up, 12 Kyle at 12 Kyle at 12 Kyle podcast. I'm on Twitter X, Instagram, what else? Threads, Facebook, TikTok. There's a TikTok page where we post videos as well. And if you feel so inclined, you want to support the channel, you want to support the brand, you want to support the 12 Kyle podcast financially, you can do so. Hit me up on Cash App, $TWELVEKYLE. And we have merch. If you look in the description box, you can find merch. Click the link. We have 12 Kyle podcast t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, posters, you name it. We got it for a very low price. Again, that's going to do it for me. I am your boy 12 Kyle, and this has been another edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'll catch you guys next time. 5,000.
Thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Share the podcast with a friend who needs the 12 Kyle podcast in their life. Every listen, every share, and every subscription helps us grow. So, go ahead, subscribe now and share it with a friend. Thanks for being a part of the 12 Kyle podcast community. We appreciate your support. 5,000.